There we go. All right, so here we are sitting in the car. I have tried every frequency that I can imagine. I've tried both radios that I have. One is an old work radio, and the other one is one that I purchased myself. Now, what's interesting is when I went camping, I don't even know how many. It was 8 or 9 months ago. I was out at a campsite, no cell service, same sort of thing. And I did a radio check and everything came back good to go. They could hear me, loud and clear. Everything was cool. So I assumed it worked. So I think right now what's going on is that we are in a valley, and there is, like I said, there is zero cell service. There is zero. I'm not getting any radio. Even the people closest to me that I've been trying to hail, they're not answering back. So kind of where we're at right now is I am hoping that Corey, my wife, the one who came out here, will realize that something has gone awry, and will decide to come back and check up or have somebody check on me. I have certainly been in worse situations. That is absolutely for a fact, and I'm not too upset about it. I know that if I don't show up for work tomorrow, I'm good. I have food, I have water, ways to get clean water. I'm not. This isn't exactly a survival situation. It's more of a kind of a major inconvenience than anything. I've been lost in the woods. I've been sucked out by the rip current in the ocean. I've weathered some pretty bad storms, being in the military and things, and like I said, I wouldn't consider this a survival situation because, like I said, if you have a plan, you need to stick to the plan. You need to let people know, where you're going to be and how long you plan on being there, and if you can't stick to the plan, then don't do it. I haven't moved 1 inch. I haven't moved 1 inch since Corey left. So I've honestly just been here, cleaning my nails, messing around in the car. I don't want to set everything back up only to have her or somebody show up, get me to jump and have to repack everything. So that's kind of that's why it's not exactly a survival situation. However, I am starting to get hungry. Again, I have extra food, not a problem. I'll figure something out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Still kind of, I know I said I'm hungry, but I'm still kind of suffering some side effects from my whatever it was last night. Like I said, 2 or 3 in the morning, I woke up. I was like, oh God, this is terrible. So dealt with that, but yeah, it was. Corey took off. She took off with the dog. I was like, okay, I'll be right behind you. I just want to make sure that this campfire is completely out. So I went down to the lake and filled up a water bottle and sprayed the camp ring down because there was still a little bit of smoke going, and got in the car, went to hit start, and click. So I'm hoping that all it is the battery and not the alternator. Every time I bring this car into the shop, don't buy a Mini. Every time I bring this car into the shop, it's like a minimum $800, $900, and I can only imagine how much an alternator is going to be. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're just sitting here. We're really, really enjoying nature now because there's nothing else to really do at the moment. Like I said, I got to be at work tomorrow, and I'd like to get back into town so I could start doing all my pre-work checks and all that fun stuff. I always am very religious about that. I always do certain checks, the night before I go into work, especially on a long work week, which is what this is going to be. It's going to end up being five days of 12-hour shifts. And so I always, just like I said, I like to get everything checked, make sure everything's good to go, this, that, the other thing, X, Y, Z, So basically, I'll tell you one of the stories that I don't know if I've told this story before. If I have, you could just fast forward. So I had just gotten home from the military. I had just gotten back from Iraq at that point, and I still had some friends, living on the East Coast. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I just tell everybody from Philly because it's like 20, 30 miles away, and nobody knows where Franklinville, New Jersey is, but everybody seems to know where Philly's at. Anyway, so I was like fresh home. Absolutely fresh home. And my buddy goes, "Hey man, let's go to the beach." So we load up, pile in the car, off we go to the beach. And it's like September. Yeah, I think it's September. And there's this storm that's just going, you know what I mean? There's this storm that's going, it's raining, it's this, and there's no lifeguards on the beach. And there's none, because it's past that point. There's no people on the beach. So, we get the bright idea, hey, we're going to go swimming. So, I mean, I've swam in the ocean before. I pride myself on being a competent swimmer. So, we get out there, and we're swimming, we're having a great time. And so, all I remember is that my buddy started to get smaller. He was getting smaller, smaller, and the beach was getting further and further and further away. I'm like, oh, that's weird. When I was a kid, I got pulled out in the rip current, and I actually had to have a lifeguard come out and save me. I was lifeguard, and some other people on a boat ended up having to come out and save me because I was with this other guy. I was like, hey man, when I was a kid, I was like, hey sir, I am having a hard time swimming. He said, yeah, so am I. So it dawned on me that I was actually being sucked out by the rip current. So I decided that, well, this is bad, and I thought, and I'll never forget this. I'll never forget some of the thoughts that I had. I was calm, but I was starting to panic. Like, I was really starting to panic, and I thought to myself, man, you survived Iraq, and you're going to get killed in the ocean. Like, what a weird turn of events, So, I'm like, I'll just pull out my cell phone and call for help. I'm in the ocean. There's no cell phone. I don't have a cell phone. My cell phone's on the beach. So finally, I get it through my head. I'm like, okay, things are just progressively getting worse. So I flip over on my back, and I start to paddle backwards on my back. And I see that there's a rock, there's a jetty a couple 100 yards away. So I just roll on my back, and I just, gently, easily, I'm floating anyway because it's the ocean. And so I ended up getting over to the jetty. Well, the waves were so bad that it actually slammed me into the rocks. And the rocks had barnacles and all sorts of shellfish. And I ended up scraping up my knees so bad that, like, it was just open. Like, you could see stuff, and it was just pouring blood. So we ended up getting first aid on it. And I finally get back, and, it's like, so it took not years. It took months for that knee to clear up, and finally, I ended up. I have such a bad scar on my knee right now from that. It was one of those things. It was a good lesson. One of the other times I can remember being in the woods and being lost. I was out morel hunting, and for those of you that don't know, morel hunting is like a big deal out here. Like, people shoot each other over morels. It's the craziest thing. I don't. It's whatever. But if you go into the store, or here locally, or wherever, you'll see that morels are like $30 or $40 for a little pint-sized jar. Just absolutely insane prices. But the place where we were at, again, no cell service, no all that, I'm noticing a trend here, no cell service, but that's just kind of how it is, It's even funnier. I'll tell that story later. So, I have a pack, and I'm out collecting morels, and with my wife, her mother and her father. I'm like, okay. So we're out, we're going. And there's this trail that you're supposed to stick to, So I go off the trail, and I start finding all these big morels, really, really nice sizes. And I like to think to myself man, this trail is for suckers. So about an hour later, I'm like, oh, I don't know where I am. This is not good. Mind you, it's probably 90 degrees, 85 degrees. I have no water. Wasn't thinking. So I realize how lost I really am, and I start to yell. And no answer. I'm like, well, great. I'm gonna have to get myself out of this. So I remember looking around, not being able to find a trail. But what I did find was a creek or a stream. And I thought, well, water always leads downhill, and civilization is always close to water. Like, I could see civilization from here. Like I said, it's not a survival, quote unquote survival situation right now. Again, just a major inconvenience. Anyway, So I'm headed down this creek bed, and I am running into Devil's Club, which is like this. They have these huge stalks, these big leaves. Well, the stalks are prickly and the leaves are prickly, and I think they have it's silicon or something inside the leaves or the spikes that really infect, or not infect, it mess with your skin, and it makes it really unhappy. So, and of course I'm wearing shorts because, again, really good life decisions. So I ended up running into a patch of these things, and there's no way to go around, so I had to go through. So I finally get down, and I'm like panting, and I'm obviously dehydrated. My mouth is starting to chap up, and I'm starting to get a headache, and I finally get down, and I'm about a mile away from the car. So I ended up having to hoof it a mile. Luckily there was a highway, so I ended up hoofing it a mile and getting back to the car, and like 45 minutes later, my wife and mother and father-in-law come down, and they didn't even realize anything was wrong. So um, yeah, just some of the, and after each one of those situations, I've learned from them. I don't just go out into the woods all willy-nilly anymore. I have food, I have water, I have medical supplies. Obviously I thought or I have radios, but it's just showing that they don't work. So what I think I'm going to end up doing this time around, because dead car battery, I didn't know that the car battery was going to be dead. It fired up just fine when we got out here. I haven't had any issues with it thus far. So I don't know if it was because I had my cell phone plugged in and off. I don't know. Who knows? But what I believe that I've gained from this situation already, is that I'm probably going to invest in one of those like Zolio or emergency GPS tracker things. In fact, I have one in my work car that a coworker gave to me. He said, "Oh, I don't need it anymore. I upgraded, this, that, the other thing. It's like, $9.99 a month, or, yearly subscription, whatever the case may be." He's like, "It's yours." So I took it, threw it in the back of my car, completely forgot about it. And now I'm like, boy, that would be a really great thing to have. If only I could just shoot a text message to somebody and be like, "Hey, I'm here. The car battery's dead. I'm going to need a jump." That's what I've been trying to do, is hail somebody on the radio to be like, "Hey, come give me a jump." But at least it's giving me time to film. I can't stress this enough. Normally I'm a very quiet, very private, don't really talk about stuff, unless I really trust somebody. I'm not a real big talker. It's just not something that I do. I mean, obviously I can, and obviously, but it's I don't know. It's just, this is a weird thing for me to have a camera in my face, and so I understand, and that's kind of why I haven't been filming. It's just because it's like, why, Um, but I feel like people could learn some things. Obviously, learn from my mistakes, because there are many. There are many, 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 many. However, I will say at this point, I have made it through this particular excursion without a scratch, except for being a little bit sick. I don't have any. I'm not bleeding anywhere. I didn't burn myself. Stuff like that. So I will say that was a success. Um, it's really weird because my wife drives a diesel truck, and every time I hear a diesel truck going down the road, I get all excited, and then no, it's nothing. The other option that I have, which rather avoid if possible, but again, if it gets to be, if it gets to be late in the afternoon and still I haven't heard from anybody, I'm gonna end up hiking. Out to the highway, and trying to flag somebody down and try and see if they'll give me or at least give me a jump, or at least make a phone call for me and let somebody know. But right now, like I said, it's kind of it's nice to be here, kind of alone with my thoughts. That it's not something that normally happens. Usually, you got the cell phone ringing, or you got the electronical bits where how it is. It's hard to actually take time off, be completely removed from everything, and I've thought about it myself, like turning the cell phone on and listening to some music, but again, I just don't foresee where I'm going to be stuck at. Again, if I'm not at work tomorrow, People are gonna start asking questions. I have no doubt about that. And I'm sure my boss will drive up here by himself to chew me out, you know. So, yeah, that's like where we're at. Um, all right, we're gonna stop here.